All right, another podcast from the Michigan Institute of Athletics in Brighton, Michigan. It's going to be an awesome podcast today. Me and the guest actually just had lunch. We've had about an hour of conversation, and I'm super excited for this episode. Right before I get into it, I want to shout out VetLife. VetLife is a 501c3 nonprofit company. It's a company of veterans for veterans. Every veteran faces difficulties when they transition from active duty back to civilian life, and VetLife is there to ease that transition. If you want to reach out to VetLife, you can do so through Instagram or Facebook, or check out their website at vetlifetoday.org. So without further ado, I want to introduce Lance Green, the announcer for B2, the man that gets the people going. For the people that don't know you, Lance, though, this is kind of how I start every podcast. I don't want to talk about the man you are today. I want to first start with your origin story. I want to go all the way back. I want to know, where was Lance born and raised? What were you like as a kid?
Pain in the ass.
Yeah, how we got to the man that you are today. So, man, take over and let's get going.
Yeah, so I'm from Mobile, Alabama, so deep south. Grew up 3 older brothers, much older, though. I was the youngest. I was the baby, and that was like I was 7 years younger than my youngest brother. So pretty much an only child, if you ask me. But parents were divorced, had an amazing mom, worked 4 or 5 jobs at a time, just killed it. She was the kind of mom that she didn't work for everything that you needed, but also everything that you wanted to, and she was a good mom. So, church kid, grew up in the church, Methodist church all my life, being active in youth group, and I was a good kid, man. There was this one time in 5th grade that I ripped Santa's beard off, and I did that at the breakfast with Santa, and I tell you, I thought I was mad at myself because I finally got in trouble. But yeah, so I was a pretty good kid. I was pretty well behaved. And then I grew up.
So you would say as a young man, you had a really good foundation early on. You had a lot of love in the life, sounds like, coming from your mother. Was your father closely involved, or?
Yeah, so my father wasn't around as much. I think it was typical like some people do divorce as well, some people don't. And I don't think my parents did either. I think they just kind of divorce is divorce, and it happens, and it affects people, and so, but never a question of whether my father cared for me, loved me, or anything like that. It was, I find more and more, the more I grow up and the older I get, the more I'm able to kind of put myself into my parents' shoes and go, I don't know what I would have done when I was 40 or when they were 40, and so it's kind of been a learning opportunity for me to.
And you have grace now. You look through a lens
100%.
of like, man, listen, people aren't perfect. And if they were struggling and they had a rough time, maybe they couldn't have made it work.
Right.
Maybe the right answer was to be apart.
Yeah.
But they did the best they could, and they did love me.
Absolutely.
100%. So actually, it's kind of interesting. Me and my brother are 8 years apart. So he has the same dynamic that you have. When you grow up that much younger, you do have these older siblings as an example to learn from. Would you say your siblings set like a good precedent? Because like if you're growing up and watching a super rebellious teenager, that might teach the little monkey brain. Did you have good relationships with your siblings?
I did have good relationships with my siblings. I think it was probably a little of both. I got to watch them go through teenage years. It's what kid's not a little bit of a hellion during those years, and so. But yeah, again, it's kind of looking back now. There's so much that I think that I learned from my oldest brother. Ended up in the Navy, and he's now a police officer, and he's just that guy. He just is, and I love him. But he's that guy that he was in the military, and he served some roles that I never could fathom. He was willing to join the military. I wasn't. Things like that I didn't see life through the lens that he saw it through. And so even just that, and having, as few as they were, just conversations where he would kind of get at me and open my eyes to some different things I look back at now. And I realize how much I grew and learned through those interactions and what I call life-defining moments or life-defining conversations. And then I had another brother that was, or I have another brother that Brian he's just the solid, straight and narrow, the steady as she goes. We could always lean on him. And then my youngest brother, Stephen, love you, Stephen. He was the baby for 7 years, and then I came along. So man, we had it out all the time. So, but no, we all get along fine now and everything.
What do you think were like the major that you had as a child, or when you say defining moments, there's a lot of things in our childhood based on what we attach ourselves to, based on where our passion lies, those things like that. What were the defining moments or things for you as a child that helped shape you into the man that you were becoming? And in a little bit of an expedited form, what did you think life was going to have for you? Because you see because you get it 3 examples that are significantly ahead of you that you see one goes military, one goes this. What do you think life is going to show to you? But after we talk about what really shaped you into who you are.
Yeah, it's kind of odd because I always saw that. I don't know. I was always a ham. I was in front of people. My teachers would always get mad at me because I wouldn't shut my mouth in class. It was just the one that talked all the time, and it was like I don't know if I needed to be the center of attention or I just had something to say or whatever. But in church, I was always the helper with this and helper with that, and always wanted to be in the middle of it. I want to be in the middle of what's going on. And I think looking back, like seeing those things, I think really just a leader is really all I ever wanted. I think sometimes I've sucked at it really bad, but I think throughout those times and those defining moments that was kind of my role in the brotherhood or in whatever, not to lead my brothers by any stretch, because that wasn't happening. But it was something totally different than what they were, and all amazing in their own rights and in what they do. But it was kind of like, I don't know, honestly, that kind of that in front of people sharing visions and sharing thoughts and I don't doing it with kindness and doing it with this, being intentional. That was always kind of, I remember telling a lady in church one time, probably 5th grade, that I wanted to be the president. I asked her if she was going to vote for me, because I think it was, I don't know, W or something was kind of jumping up there and doing his thing. And I wanted to be the president. And now I don't. I have no desire to be the president. Who does? But I look back now and I realize that was always kind of my thing, to be the center of what's going on. And
that was your niche.
That
was something.
It got me in trouble a little bit, to be honest with you, because that's a space that you can go take one way or another, and one way is filled with death and one way is filled with life, and so you can find yourself in the middle of shit real quick and not doing any good.
Where did the self-confidence come from? Because it takes someone usually with a tremendous amount of self-confidence to be able to stand that bravely as the center of attention, or like in the way that you're describing it, you were willing to be like I'm going to be president. I'm going to be a leader. I'm somebody. You know what I mean? That's the way to say it. I'm somebody. Where did that come from?
I'll be honest. I don't know if as much, there's this weird gray area between a self-confidence and a lack of self-confidence. And so I don't know that I can fully say that it was a self-confidence as much as I was willing to put myself beyond my comfort to be that or to do that, but to get over that lack of self-confidence, that lack of self-worth. I didn't grow up with the greatest self-worth, but it was almost like that was my seeking self-worth. And continuing to push harder so that someone would like me, or someone would see me, it's almost like I'm going to do it, I'm going to do that.
That actually makes sense. When I made that statement, I was thinking that it came from a place of like, hey, I'm confident, so I'm able to do what I want.
Yeah,
but it makes
not at all
perfect sense what you're saying. And through that, you're able to find, like, you're searching for value. Yeah. You're putting yourself out there to find, like, what is it that makes me special?
Right,
what is
100%.
It? What is it that I'm meant to do?
Yeah, and that was the strangest. That's always been very strange for me, is that I've always felt like, again, probably some forced confidence, but some as well that's natural, that I'm just kind of like, I know I can do this and I know I can do that. I feel like I could write a book, or I feel like I could do this, or be on a TV show or whatever. I feel like I could do any of it, but and there's a lot of people out there that feel that way, that they become paralyzed by their options, and by their abilities and what they could do. Now, there's a lot of things that I'm not good at, of course, but when you look at it and you just go, I don't know what I want to do. I feel like I can do any of it. Through that, you realize, though, what you can and can't do.
Honest to God, that's incredibly fascinating and enlightening in the way that you've said that, because I would always relate when I see those natural, I don't know, the vibrant people, the people that are willing to just put themselves into these wide variety of circumstances and like try to find success. I always related that to like, these must be confident people to some degree.
Or it's people that are working really hard.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's people that are
Trying.
willing to put
Right.
themselves on the line to try to find that
Yeah,
purpose, to try to find
100.
that value. Because usually when you see people not doing things that you know, or like they know they want to do and they're not doing them, generally we relate that to, well, they have a lack of confidence in themselves.
Right.
And the lack of confidence has done what you said, paralyzed their ability to go get it. But really, like, we don't necessarily know that to be true or not. Maybe there are other people that are just, you know, there's different reasons that are holding them back.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
So, you're in high school. You had told me briefly while we were just having lunch together that you became a pastor.
Yes.
So did you know that was going to be your course by the time you were in high school, or did that find you because you grew up in the church?
Yeah, well, so I did grow up in the church, and then there was a kind of, again, another life-defining time where we had changed churches, and I found I had never fit within a youth group or any kind of group at church or anything like that. But when we switched churches, I found a home there. And my youth pastor at the time and his wife, Paul and Carrie Olson, still adore them, and they mean the world to me. But they instilled my vibe or feel for hospitality and for just loving on people and just being a place, a respite for people, came from them 100%, because it was the first time I really in my life, I feel like everybody at that time is finding some places and stuff, and so it's not that unusual. But I do know that was really the first time in my life I felt a place or found a place that I felt like I belonged. And I think I took that church thing and I took it to a different level of going, well, this is where I belong, so this is what I will do. And so then ultimately ended up going into student ministry, went to school for religious studies and things like that. And went to Huntington College, ended up dropping out. I just didn't like school. But then was a youth pastor in the Methodist Church for 10 years. Loved every minute of it. People are always wondering why I got out of it. And I was just tired, man. It's an exhausting job. That's thankless. You just pour your life into other people. And for me, I wasn't a balanced individual at that point in time. So I
weren't pouring into yourself
No,
enough.
not at all. And then that's when I found myself in darker places that I didn't need to be, you know? And so I wasn't pouring into myself. And then though all of it came from an authentic place, it was like what I was pouring into others, it was not tainted. It just wasn't effective. You know, we're not effective when we don't take care of us. You know, we just at that point we're just giving and doing to give and do. You know, and with no intention at all.
So as soon as you started to recognize the pattern that, wait a second, I'm just doing this job now. I'm not passionately and authentically able to give my best because I don't feel my best right now. So I have to search for that again.
Yeah.
Because when you first got into it, you probably were like, I'm going to make a massive impact. This is important. I found a place that feels like home and it made an impact on me. So I'm going to give that impact to others. But then over time, feelings can change.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It starts to change over time. You still value the church. You still value what you did during that period. What does the new direction look like? I'm always fascinated by like turning points in people's life or like a new chapter opening, because there's a lot of fears in there. There's a lot of, well, what will this work? What was the next step?
Yeah. So for me, I was let go from a church in when I was it was Shreveport, Bossier City, Louisiana. I'll be in Louisiana next week, by the way. Do you need to fix that? Sorry.
No, I think it's good.
Yeah. So just kicking cameras around here. But
now, real quick, because I'm an outsider to all religious institution. I don't know very much, and I'm very limited in that aspect. Why would you be let go?
You know, I believe that the church is a little more political than most people realize. And at that time, I was young. I didn't understand the way the world worked, you know, with systems, and systems are good. Systems can be very good. They can be very deadly and very bad too. And I think that, man, I didn't understand how to get done what I needed to get done. I didn't understand the processes and how to deal. I didn't understand, in a political term, diplomacy. How that you can't just love on some, and you have to take care of everybody, and you have to figure out ways. You don't always just go from point A to point B. Sometimes you've got to take detours and figure out where you need to be. And so I wasn't great at that. I wasn't good at navigating those political waters, or whatever term you want to use for them. I think we all know that there's just facets that work, I wasn't good at that. And I was really good at investing in students' lives and investing in people's lives, and but not navigating those waters. And so it just didn't do me. There wasn't a balance there in how to do my job and how to handle things. And so it ultimately bit me, and just kind of that ultimately was kind of what led me to a different direction, to go, maybe this just isn't where I need to be right now. Maybe I need to take a time. I need to take a space and figure out what I want to do.
So what role does religion play in your life at this point? Because that would have been a life where you were almost consumed by it. You're living in it, you're working in it, you're preaching it, you're helping people with it. It's your life very entwined with who you are as a person. Where is religion with you at this point in life? Not to bounce forward and back, but I want to know, how does that change when you're not completely enveloped by it? Are you able to see it more clearly? Are you able to understand religion even deeper than you could before? Just how did it change when you stepped back from having to make it your work as well as something that is good for you?
Yeah, I think that one of the things, I feel like, though it can have its very good aspects, I feel like religion in some ways for me became an addiction, and service within the church became an addiction, to where it was me feeding my need for affirmation, right? Because they loved me, I was that guy that I could get up in front of people and I could make you cry, or I could say something that was so relevant to you, and it was all heartfelt. But at the end of the day, was it about really doing something for you, or was it really about wanting to know that affirmation that you're going to give back to me after I finish that talk?
Man, that's some good self-reflection there, Lance.
Yeah,
that's
I'm pretty good at looking in a mirror.
That is some really deep self-reflection.
Yeah.
So you get let go, right? And something happens where you decide not to just go right, because you could easily find that affirmation again and those same things. You could go, I already know how to do this. I'm going to jump right back into another church, and then that's what most people do, is when they get cut off from something, they find something similar because it's comfortable, right? Yeah. But you didn't do that. What does the next chapter look like? What is the in-between period, that transition?
Yeah.
What did you learn about yourself? What were your emotions like? And then what new course did you set out on?
Yeah, so from there I went into retail, and then into service, and ultimately, service industry, so hospitality, restaurants. And honestly, still looking for some of the same things, but knowing that you could get them in different ways. I was a great customer service manager, because I love making people happy, because if I make you happy, then I get happy. So things like that. And then service, the same thing. I give you that amazing steak. But you know what I realized is that aspect of me is never going to change. It's who I am. And there's nothing wrong with loving on folks, even if, yes, it's all about intention and how you grow into your intention, and whether you're willing to be a little less, and actually, I try to actually pay attention to what I'm saying now, as far as knowing, sorry, I'm rambling, but understanding where being intentional about taking care of people. And I think that's where, again, the service and the church and working for Apple, and even that atmosphere is so family, and really unbelievable to work for. And so still constantly searching for that aspect, but loved every minute of it. Man, I was an amazing server. I was really good.
No, I like that you can honestly say that. I love more people need to not be afraid to brag about themselves.
And I loved coaching others. I loved bringing people into a place. Look, I am doing something as a server who makes $2.13 an hour plus tips. Servers should be proud of what they do, because you're doing something that the people that are sitting at your table did not want to do or could not do for themselves. And you can serve them food, or you can serve them life. You could serve them energy. You could serve them an experience unlike anything that they've ever done before. I think that's what you do here, is you give an experience unlike anything they've ever expected or gotten.
Yeah, so you had a huge upper hand because you were that pastor and you saw how much your actions and words can impact people and your energy.
Right.
You just carried that into the new fields.
100%.
And you said, you know what, I'm going to make this memorable.
Yep.
I am going to make this a memorable experience.
Yeah.
When you meet Lance Green, you're going to be thankful that you were interacting with me.
That was the idea. Yeah.
And that's awesome. So before we get to you being in the spotlight now with B2 and the announcing, which I'm super excited to talk about, I want to discuss a little bit about what were the defining moments where you started to grow as a person into this person that reflects and looks back? Because the way you're speaking about yourself right now on the podcast is, I was once this man.
Yeah.
And I was doing things for different reasons or different, what it did for me. But now, even to speak in that way, it means you've gone through psychological transformation. Right. Were there defining moments in your life? Were there relationships? Were there painful experiences? How did something has happened in you, because the man now is completely different than the man that would have been telling the story then. What were the big things in your life that created that change? And then I want to say, how did you first decide to, I'm going to get in front of the camera, I'm going to get in a cage, I want to be the guy in that spotlight in entertainment again?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, it was kind of I worked with a company called Strike Hard Productions out of Birmingham, Alabama, or Tuscaloosa, and I was their sponsor relations guy. I would go around and get all their sponsors, make sure they're treated like rock stars. I was the party guy. I was the one always best dressed, 100 pounds lighter, but looked fantastic. And that was my role. And so I did that up until 2016, at which point I moved to Atlanta.
And is this just as a hobby, or was this your career?
No, this was I was still serving on the side. So it was we were having maybe 5 fights a year, but I would have loved to have turned it into, constant sponsorship sales full-time type thing. We just weren't at the volume that we could do that quite yet. So 2016, I moved to Atlanta, and MMA in Alabama at that time was still, I had to go in. I needed to see you face-to-face if I was going to get money from you for an event, to sponsor an event, just because people still didn't get it. They still equated bars and tough man contests and all that, so you had to be face-to-face with them. I had to pull the pastor trick and say, look, man, I was a pastor for 10 years. I believe in this, and so I did that. And it just wasn't going to work with me being in Atlanta. And in Atlanta, I found a pretty rough drug addiction, to be honest with you. So that was something that I went through that for 2 years. I don't mind talking about it, but for 2 years, cocaine, man, just was a nasty, nasty beast that got a hold of me hard. And really breaking that chain, my husband and I had made the decision to move away from there. And that was the only life he ever knew, was Atlanta, or he had known for a long time, was because he was a bartender in that area. And we were able to pick ourselves up and drag ourselves out of there and went back to Birmingham, which I knew, after 2 years. And we rehabbed ourselves, and thank God for COVID. That helped tremendously too. But we grew through that with each other. So anybody who says you can't do it together, you can. I'm not going to say I recommend it or anything, but it's possible. Listen to your doctors.
That's actually when you were sitting here talking to me today, I'm like, listen, I know for a fact something big took
Yeah,
place
yeah.
and you transformed psychologically because
Yeah.
you were almost living, in a way, the rock star life. You were the
Yeah.
center of the attention, that
was
high
presenting
energy.
it.
I can impact people. They're going to love me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that tends to border on the, like that's how rock stars
Yeah.
fall into cocaine. I'm
Yeah.
invincible. I'm powerful. So
And it really wasn't even what I was. It was what I wanted to believe that I was. Let's be real about it. That's what it wasn't. I wasn't that at all. Like, but it's what I wanted to be. And it's what gave me, in my head, it gave me value. As silly as 40-year-old me looks back at it now,
if this is not too prying,
Yeah.
did you have any experience with drugs before that, or did you know what, this one time your life led you to a cocaine experience and then it drastically altered you? Or had you had a history with substances, but it was more under control until that point?
It was more like I'd smoked marijuana before and stuff for a good bit, but other substances, very, very, very rare. Did not hold a place in my life necessarily. But once just the culture of where I was and everything going on around me, it's real, and it's real easy to get swept up in, and lose yourself. And man, you fully lose who you are.
So if you don't mind talking about it, because as someone that has no experience in that
Yeah.
world at all, the first time that you decide that you're going to do cocaine, that's the major jump, okay? Because to go from a certain psychological state,
Right.
regardless of what you smoked a little weed, you drank, whatever, to make that step, that's a hard drug,
Yeah.
and we know that in society. And there has to be some type of justification or a trust in our environment or
Right.
the people around me. Hey, they're all doing it. It all seems fine, so I can party with them. What got you to take that first step? And then as someone that is never, I can't comprehend what that experience is like.
Right.
How did it change you? How did your urges and life change? How did the man that you are change? Because obviously there was a battle that took place that you finally snapped
Yeah.
out of. Just go into depth a little bit with me about that, because I'm just fascinated by things like that.
I think again, it all goes back to that lack of confidence and that lack of feeling like I belonged. And it I don't want to say it was just a peer pressure thing. It was just I was around the right people that it was around, And like I said, the first time was wasn't a big deal because it was a big deal, but it didn't continue and perpetuate until later. Later, it became a daily habit to where truly didn't feel like you could function without it. Wake up in the morning, go get it. Go to sleep at night to it, and so no leftovers, and it was just it changed who I was in the idea of it really is sometimes, even if it's not the drug itself, the sleep deprivation, the just all of it, it felt like something had been put in my brain, just a fork just scrambled, and just couldn't see up from down anymore, couldn't tell which way was the right way, and thought that this might work, but this wouldn't. And it was just it was crazy is what it was, made me a horrible person, to be honest with you. It really did. It made me a horrible fiance at the time, made me a horrible employee, made me a horrible son, all of it. And I say it made me, my choices for that made me a horrible person, it did all those things. And finally ended up where we were, my husband and I were going through it, and we had kind of even separated some, and something had to give. It was going to be something had to give. And so we had no power. We had rent was about a month late. We had no gas, and we had no water, and it was cold.
That's your rock bottom.
Yeah, that's about as rock bottom as it gets. And so what we did have was a few good friends that helped us get a U-Haul, helped us get a hotel, lived in an extended stay for 3 months next door to the restaurant I'd gotten a job at. So
Was there, besides what you just said, was there one defining moment that you can remember where your brain said, that's it, I'll never do this again, I got to fix my lifestyle? Or was it just when you got to that state where you don't have power, you don't have water, you go, look at what my life has become. I went from a man that was crushing it, that was filled with life, that was filled with passion, and now this one thing has taken me to this place.
Yeah.
Was there a last straw, or did you just get to where you described, and then together with you, your fiance, and friends, you just started building up?
Yeah, I think that, well, again, because I think that the COVID thing made a huge difference for us, because it took every temptation away, because there was no options for anything and no money coming in. So that was important to us to maintain. We had already kind of quit and everything, but at that point, I feel like it was just kind of, we slowly, it was a climb. It was 100% just a slow climb, and it wasn't always perfect, and we misbehaved, and we did our things, but slowly we just began to climb and climb and climb. What's the story about the frog that churns butter or whatever it is, and that's all we could do was continue to just keep our head above water and paddle the mouse. That's it. Until we had created something solid enough to stand on and to grow into, and constantly feeling better and better about ourselves and about our lives and what we were giving and who we could give back to and how. Because, again, we were empty. There was nothing left.
That's so wild, because you've experienced, when you listen to your story, you have these moments of such passion and energy and human connection and pulling like all the juices out of life, like all the best moments and experiences, and then hitting a bottom where you're feeling abysmal and empty and probably depressed and this and this and this. Yeah. So you've experienced such a broad perspective in life.
Crazy.
Now, when you sit here as we speak today, how wild is it to look back at the frame of mind that you were in during that period? Because we grow and we're always able to reflect later on. But, like, you probably barely recognized the Lance that was living through that period.
Yeah,
was he self-reflecting at all? Was it you were just in the thing and you were following what you wanted to do?
I was just following. I was just following, period. Just doing. It was mindless, just constant. That's the one thing that I feel like it did, was it took away your mind, and it was just a constant. I didn't have to think about it. It wasn't required to think about it. It was just required to do it.
That's
in my
exactly
head.
I didn't want to make it sound condescending and say like you were just following the orders of cocaine.
Yeah, no.
But in a certain way, you were almost mindlessly just trying to get to that feeling again.
Yeah,
I just have
always trying to get that feeling. Always trying to get back to that feeling. I thank God I don't need that feeling now.
My next question was, how have you silenced that voice? Because once you've experienced something like that, like I've interviewed multiple heroin addicts, and I have a good friend that has actually died twice from heroin, has been resuscitated in front of his mother, and he's now an incredible professional boxer. But he describes it like there's a constant battle every day of his life with that thing. How have you been able to win that battle regularly? And what are the activities or the things that you do to keep yourself on course? Because like this life is better. Yeah. But there's probably always that little demon trying to drag you back down. What have you done to be able to stay in the healthier version of yourself?
So I'm not going to lie. Like, I think that is a lot of people's stories, that it's a constant strive and constant work and everything like that. And not to say that it hasn't been hard or that it's not a lot of work or that it wasn't a lot of work, but I am very grateful that, like, at this point in my life, it's like cigarettes. I quit smoking about a year and a half ago, quit smoking cigarettes. And the other day I actually tried to smoke one just to see. Couldn't do it. I just couldn't. It was like, I'm a Scorpio. You know this. When I'm done with something, I'm done. You know what I mean? And I've just not really had, it was like I was able to flip a switch. I empathize so hard with people that cannot flip that switch. And like I said, it was a really hard switch to flip. It was very difficult. But once it was done, it was done. And I could, I've watched the way my life and my husband's life, as we've worked hard, to develop something. He is an award-winning mixologist out of Birmingham and has done an amazing job and amazing work there. And to see what cleaning our life up, or for lack of a better term, or just pushing towards excellence, what that has rewarded us is so much better, and I get why it's hard to see it while you're in the thick of it and while you're in the middle of it. But man, it's like I look now and I just go, no, I can't,
But you know what? That was that tremendous period of growth.
Yeah.
I knew it. I could tell by you telling your story. I was
yeah.
going, okay, by the way he's talking, there was a tremendous growth period here.
Yeah, there was a lot of growth and very, it's cliche to say no regrets or whatever. Yeah, I have some regrets, but honest to God, I can look at it and know that it's like you said, that wide expanse of different things that I've been through. I've been from the church to the cage. I've been, to the streets to living well. And I think that's for a reason. I've experienced a lot of stuff that I'm not always the proudest of, but I'm proud that I'm proud of myself for navigating it. And I kind of honestly, even though I maybe wouldn't do it the same, I look back and I'm kind of glad that I've ended up where I have, and I'm grateful to have had even the worst of experiences. I can honestly say that I know what it's like to have no rent, no power, no water, no gas, and hopefully me knowing that person and knowing me and having been there, I can in some way affect someone else's life that hopefully they may not have to get there. They may, but, I can at least relate to it and not just stare at them judgingly and harshly because they're a drug addict.
It's way easier to have compassion now. Oh. It's way easier to be grateful now, isn't it? Gratitude comes easy to you now. 100%. And there's so many people that are successful that will say the identical thing that you just said, where they'll say, listen, I almost wouldn't change a thing because I wouldn't be the man that I am today had I not gone through what they were necessary lessons.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
In jiu-jitsu, you constantly hear the terminology where people say, you either win or you learn.
Right.
Well, you had a lot of learning to do in that period.
Absolutely. And that's what I think that's part of what has drawn me to the fight game too, is the battle. The battle, and knowing that no matter what the outcome of the battle is, there has to be growth. It's required. It's not a negotiable. There must be some growth within that. And I think that's one of the reasons I relate to that so well, even though I don't necessarily train and I'm not, I can still relate to that heart of battling it out and duking it out, but still, no matter whether you win or you lose, being able to learn so that you have a win next week. And I think that relates to me really well on with the way my life has gone.
The struggle of the human spirit is universal.
Yeah, 100%.
Any human being trying to level up that is going through good, bad, ugly, beautiful, that's what you're doing, is you're trying to figure out who you are in this world. You're trying to figure out what actually does matter to you.
Shit's not supposed to be easy.
No. Yeah. If it was easy, it would probably suck. It'd be boring.
Right.
You ever play a video game and just put a cheat code in and you just run through everything? It's not even fun. It's not even enjoyable.
Right.
So it's not just the winning that gives us satisfaction.
What's your favorite video game, by the way?
Oh, my God. What period of my life? The game that consumed me for the longest was a game called EverQuest. It literally took like 10 years of my life. I played EverQuest, World of Warcraft, Super Metroid, every shooting game, Call of Duty, Destiny. Like, there's just no games I don't play. Pokemon.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. The amount. I have like I don't know if you've ever seen my game room, but I have a massive mural on my wall of all my favorite video game characters painted on the wall from an artist in Grand Rapids. And it's like Godzilla's in one corner of the room, and then there's Pikachu in the other, and then
Zelda up in the corner.
You have Bowser in the top left corner, and I have Squall from Final Fantasy, and I had this custom painted on my wall. First of all, it's very nostalgic, and I love the things, but they're actually had big impacts on me growing up as a child. Like, video games, for a lot of the stuff I was going through, were like an escape for me. Yeah. So now there's such a nostalgic feeling there that I love those things very deeply. But the human growth or the spiritual evolution that people go through is one of my favorite things to learn about and hear about, because we all have different paths, but the correlation usually is so similar between failures and then learning and rock bottoms and then rebuilding and heartbreak and heartache and loss and tremendous personal growth.
And we find it so easy to judge those stories and those lifetimes that people have put in. And it's so hard for us to have compassion and grace for it, because that's one of the things I'm trying to teach myself a lot about is we all as humans have snap judgments on people all the time. We just do. Maybe someone acts this way or they do this or act that, but the reality is those people have 30 years under their belt that you have no clue. They have 40, 50 years that you have no clue what went on. You have no clue what the abuse was. You have no clue what the parents were like. And man, if we could all just look for a little more compassion, you don't even have to know their story, but just know that there is one, because you have one.
1,000%. One of the biggest characteristics I look for in people is seeing how they judge people. Because like when you look at an asshole, like I'll give you a point. I bet you and I are the same in this way. When you've gone through tremendous personal growth or loss or pain or heartache or heartbreak, and you've gone through your journey and you've changed dramatically as a human being through that journey, when you see other people, if I look at an asshole, I see a broken human being. I see someone that story has ravaged them and they haven't come out the other side yet. Because usually once you do go through hitting that rock bottom, you come out on the other side, you have grace, you have compassion, you have empathy, because you know what it's like to not be your best. And you're like, you know what? If someone would have judged me and been like, oh, that's all Lance is, and they said that, that period of my life was a defining characteristic for who I am as a person, they would have been really wrong. It's just you saw me at that stage. So if we lead with that, like, viewpoint of compassion, the whole world gets better. Because you know who needs compassion more than anyone else? That asshole. Or that person struggling. Or the person at rock bottom. Those are the people that, you know what? They can become the best people you've ever met. But they need some grace. They need some compassion. You know what I mean? So, and like I said, it's shocking to me that the way you were telling the story, and I saw the duality of you were reflecting upon an earlier Lance that no longer exists. And that is a tremendously good sign for me, because it shows that you've gone through ups and downs and you've now learned more about like what makes me my best.
And what makes me tick, just what in general, who am I? Man, if I thought it was going to take this long to get here. That's the craziest part.
Thank God we're here, Lance.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now I want to talk about, you start getting in the MMA world a little bit. You lightly mentioned the promotion you were initially with, but you were kind of doing 5 shows a year. How do you get involved with B2? Because right now you guys are taking over the nation. You're about to do a show here in Novi on Saturday. I believe you're the most active promotion in the world, except maybe the UFC. You guys are right on board with them. Because they have several branches. They have Ultimate Fighter and everything. But no matter what, you're top 3 in the world.
It's nuts.
And you are the front guy. You're the announcer. You're not an independent contractor that hits every 1 or 2 shows. We were talking about this over lunch. You're the man in the cage. You are going to be the one that introduces the athletes for B2 Fighting Series. How did that introduction happen? And then I want you to talk about from the very beginning with B2, what was different about them? Talk about like how things have evolved.
Well, again, originally a good friend of mine, David Fennell, had gotten me involved with Strike Hard and did not. I moved to Atlanta and couldn't be a part of it. Wasn't trying to be a part of it. Had a falling out and rough times going on, and I remember going out to the patio and calling my good friend Jamie, who is one of the owners of Strike Hard. And I just said in tears, because I came out of my husband and I were fighting. And I came out and I said, hey, you know how we're always looking for a steady announcer? He's like, yeah. And I said, I may have someone. He's like, who's that? And I said, why don't I try it? And he said, and that was about it. But ultimately, he talked to the other 2 owners, and I gave it my first go, and they decided none of them wanted to do it on the regular, so they let me keep doing it. I remember I had little pink and blue index cards, the colored index cards, and I had all my red corner on the pink and all my blue corner on the blue ones. I was really professional. So I did that for a couple of years with them, and then talks began to happen with B2, and B2 Digital was coming in and had acquired a couple of promotions, Hard Rock and then Strike Hard, and everybody had kind of their own thing going on, and I remember I had been asked to stay on with the promotion and do more shows. I don't think for a moment that I could be fully wrong. I don't know that they had fully planned on it being quite this busy from the start. I don't know what we had really planned on it being, but the fact that it's every week, 48 fights a year. Honestly, you'd have to hire a full-time announcer to do that.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
and the dream evolves, and it shows the leadership of this company.
Oh,
They're trying to go to the
it's
top.
unbelievable. That's the one thing that I will say about the people that have always brought me into this company, or that have brought me into this company, is they've always kept their promises with me. They've always taken care of their fighters. That's always been a passion of mine since being. I believe if I'm going to be in an industry, that I might as well be excellent at it, and I might as well I have to associate a cause with something, if that makes sense. For me, fighter, like the work that these guys put in, and it deserves to be recognized and treated with respect and handled appropriately. And that's one of the things that I've always seen B2 do that I appreciate. And what we try to do is give them a space that feels very much like the big boys, that they could get used to it. I've never seen another promotion work this hard to really give that vibe and take such amazing care of their fighters, of their coaches, and really, we've got dreams with the metaverse happen. Last week we had our first fight in the metaverse. Not real sure what it means still, but no, it was really cool. Decentraland, I think, it was the Aquarium Casino. And evidently you go in, you get to buy your own B2 wear, and you get to watch the fights in community, in digital community, which is crazy as hell to me, but it's there, and that's where we're going. So I had to watch Ready Player One to catch up on what my life was about to be like.
Hey, that'll be a pretty sick thing if it ends up like Ready Player One.
I'm cool with it.
So when you find B2, is this right after you had hit your rock bottom and you're back on track now? So you're on an upward trajectory. They are on an upward trajectory. One thing that I want to attest to on camera here for the podcast that I've been blown away by is I actually had gone to another show and I had a horrible experience. Like, because I go to any league. I'm at all the major leagues. I'm at leagues across the country. And I had just gone to a show. I'm not even going to say where. I'm not going to shout out the league. But it was terrible. And then the following weekend, I'm like, oh, my God. Like, I have a B2 fighting series in Kentucky. Oh, God. Like, honestly, I think because I was just coming off this last weekend, my expectations were so low.
Yeah.
But I was like, at the end of the day, like, I always want to give people a shot, because maybe something good is going on here, and we can show up as professionals, and whatever happens, happens.
Right.
And if it's not a great league, or they pull bullshit or whatever, we just won't go back.
Right.
And I remember when I went to the B2 show, I was like, man, something's different here.
Yeah.
Like, these people are invested in this thing. This isn't just people doing a job that want to do the bare minimum, a promoter wants to grab some cash and head out. This feels like a community.
It's a vibe, man. It's definitely a vibe. And I mean, everybody that's involved, especially in the leadership, has been involved for years, in one facet or another. We've got an unbelievable matchmaker in Hard Rock and Hard Rock Higdon and Andy Law. They're doing great jobs because they're invested in this, even down to I call him the gatekeeper, Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson has been greasing guys up for 10 years and building cages for 10 years. And he and I talk about it all the time. We are living, if this is as good as it gets, I'm living a dream, man. Like, I feel really, really happy and good about what's going on. And he feels the same way. We talk about it all the time. I think everybody in there feels that vibe of we're really getting to live something out here.
So you feel the energy that I was talking about. I go back to a show for B2 again, like 3 months later, and this is what shocked me, and this is where I got hooked. I went to a B2 show again about 3 months later after the initial one, and it was drastically better than the previous. And I went, wait a second here. These people made this many changes in that short of a period. That is a culture of excellence. That is accountability. That is asking everybody, hey, guys, we did a good job. We are not about doing a good job. We're going to do a great job. It's about constantly striving, right? So I want you to talk about, because you have the inside perspective, why is there such a culture of excellence at B2? Where does that come from? And like, just give us the inner workings of why is B2 like a premier organization the way they are? You have an inside scoop.
Yeah. So I think the answer is really simple. You have to be. You have to be.
But most leagues are not, Lance. That's what you don't realize. You say that.
Well, I get that, but our leadership, number one, has come from the beginning of this idea of excellence. We are not going to, have any opportunity for. We'll have plenty of opportunity for growth, but that growth has to always be leading toward excellence. I know, and we spoke about it over lunch, like for me, I was raw when I first got into the cage for B2. I'd been doing this 5 times a year for a few years, and it was fun. It was a hobby, just like most of our great, announcers that are out there in promotions now. That's all it was to me. But I think that overall, once I realized how good this opportunity was and how much potential there was with it, I think everybody took on their own individual sense of excellence and needing and wanting to be excellent. Again, I go back to gatekeeper Michael Johnson and how he or Van and all of those, Drake, all of the guys that do so much work and build that cage. We have a crew that rolls with us, and man, their attention to detail when it comes to that cage and building that cage, they don't want a situation like what happened in Oklahoma on their watch. They don't want a guy passing away because of some step that they missed, man. And so these guys take it so personally. Our production crew, every week improving something. That's one thing I always notice from the beginning is every week we have our production meeting, and every week there was always either an addition of let's try this or that was good, but we can do better. And I love that. I thrive in that atmosphere because that's what I'm doing, and I think that is a culture. I'll be honest with you. It blows my mind because I like to think I'm kind of an expert in building culture. This shit just happened. Like it just, I know from the top that it was instilled, and I think that comes from the very top of our organization. But man, I've never seen it quite that organic. If that makes sense. It really, everybody came into it coming from promotions that we all had purposes and felt like we had purposes, and it was like we got to Captain Planet this shit. And when our powers combined, we all worked together to really put on an excellent show. We're going to have faults and trip ups along the way, but I can say, man, if I work every week to get better as hard as my other people work, all the other people work, then we're going to be golden.
There's incredible alignment within the company,
which
is so rare.
Yeah.
The accountability is across the board because they know, listen, Lance stepping it up. So what? Yeah. What does that mean? I got to step it up.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Vanessa's going to step it up. That means Brandon's going to step it up. And when you have
I step it up because all of them step it up.
That's what I mean. There's just such a good harmony or such good synergy, alignment, whatever you'd like to classify it as. And that can be felt. Yeah. It is literally tangible. When you go to a B2 Fighting Series event, you can feel it.
Yeah.
You can feel all of the little details.
Yeah, I like to think that everybody that comes in feels a part of what we're doing and feels a part of the family, if that makes sense. And I'll be honest, I think they do. I really think that they vibe with what we're doing,
I'll tell you right now, I have family coming into town here that have never been to an MMA event ever. Yeah. They're flying in from Philadelphia. They actually get here tomorrow morning. And it's funny, if there was other events in town, and I'm not going to name any by names, I don't even think I would take my family members to it because it's my aunt, it's my 2 of my cousins. Because some MMA promotions, they're supposed to start at 6. They kick off at 7:40. the intermission ends up being 30 minutes. They forgot to schedule the ambulance, so they go to start the show. The ambulance isn't there. It's a shit show.
It can be,
and it can be.
And with that said, it's been a shit show in my lane before too, back in the day.
Where I'm going with this is like, you roll the dice.
Right.
It feels so good to be like, oh my God, there's a B2 show in Michigan. First of all, your inaugural, the first ever B2 show in series,
so
B2 fighting show
fight.
in Michigan this weekend. That I'm so excited. I called my dad. Dad, you need to be at this event. I had my fiance is going to be there, and that is a great feeling for as a coach with athletes that are giving 1,000% to this. The same way you have accountability amongst your staff. That's what we have in this building. We have dream chasers. Yeah. We have people holding each other to a gold standard. We want to feel a part of organizations doing the same thing. So this weekend, like, we're so pumped, but what I want you to do here is pretend like you're pitching this in like a 30-second or a 1-minute clip as the man that's going to be responsible for the energy in the building. If a random person is watching this podcast and they say, why should I be in Novi on Saturday night? What would you tell them, Lance?
Look, I think that I believe with all my heart that B2 Fighting Series is the premier developmental league for mixed martial arts. I know there's others out there that say they are, and that's fine. Everybody has their place. But I believe with the heart that we're bringing and the processes and the production that we're bringing, that's just what we are. That's what we're setting up to be. And if it's not what we are, it's what we'll be tomorrow. We just believe it, and we continue to get better. We have amazing amateur and professional cards that you have to come out and see. You cannot miss it. Your guys alone bring such a wealth of experience, but man, all of the other guys, who was it? Rob Grigsby stepping up last minute, man, coming in from Ohio, stepping up to fight one of your guys. Man, the heart that's coming onto this card, I just believe is unbelievable, and I'm very, very excited. The venue's beautiful, so thanks to you guys out in Novi. I cannot wait. I believe that there's just going to be an amazing, amazing energy. So you might see me dance just a little bit. I don't know.
And I'm hoping that if it's an incredible success and we blow the doors off this place and make that building levitate in Novi, that you guys are going to be back. Like, I don't want this better not be a one-time show.
Yeah, we don't like to do one and dones, man. We like commitment.
So the last thing I want to talk to you about on the podcast, a little bit off topic, but we were having lunch today and we had a really interesting dialogue. You're currently only eating meat, Lance.
Yeah.
No vegetables.
No vegetables.
You're everything that we've been
in such trouble with my doctor.
Everything we've been taught by the food pyramid and all these things. Anecdotally, you can say, listen, I've been eating only meat and I feel sharp. I want you to describe that a little bit because it's fascinating to me. It's another topic that I think we can really have some discussion about. And then maybe 2 months later, we can talk about a little further.
Yeah. So earlier last week, I believe it was, Jamie, who's a good friend of mine, he works with B2 in the executive offices. He and I were talking about it, and I found out he's doing this carnivore diet, and and it's health reasons for him. And for me, I was just like, I'm honestly, since COVID, I kind of put on a good bit of weight, and so I'm kind of just navigating, going, what the hell, I don't know. And so he said this, and I'm like, I'll roll with you. Let's give it a go. How bad can it be? I like meat. And so for 4 nights straight, I ate a ribeye and shrimp, but it was so good.
What about breakfast, lunch?
Breakfast, yeah. So breakfast was always like, I would do 4 fried eggs, 5 pieces of bacon, a piece of grilled chicken. Meat it up. But then the great thing is, I could even do without lunch because my energy was sustained. I really didn't feel the need to eat a lot. Snacking, not a whole lot of desire for that. I will tell you that, I'm not a scientist. I don't claim to be. I'm not a dietitian. Don't write me. But I will tell you, since I began this, even just in a week to a week and a half, my energy level is unbelievable compared to what it was. I told you earlier, 2 weeks ago, I felt old. Like at 40 years old, my body, I felt, was just doing stupid shit and just not, I'd been kind of sedentary and just hadn't been doing a lot. And man, I just felt every joint, and I do not feel that now. It is not, I'm not miracle curing or anything like that, but for my personal experience, I'm interested to continue seeing where this goes. I've lost about 15 pounds in the past week and a half, something like that, 10 to 15. And for me to have lost that and still feel the level of energy that I'm feeling, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to get blood tests done in about 3 months, see where we're at, and make sure all is good, because I don't want to do something for my health and then in turn hurt myself, So I want to be educated about it. I'm continuing to watch podcasts and stuff and learn. I haven't gotten into the organ meat thing yet. I'm having trouble, man. Liver and heart is an issue for me, and I'm just not feeling it. So
yeah, and textures are a little bit of an issue for me. And I hear it's real chewy.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely an interesting topic, and I'll closely follow this, because Jordan Peterson, I was talking to you about this. He anecdotally, through his experiences and through his daughter's combat with an autoimmune disease, who had rheumatoid arthritis in her 20s, and all of these diagnoses, has gotten to only eating meat and completely lost all of her symptoms. Yeah. That is enough to at least look into. Jordan Peterson has lost a tremendous amount of weight, and the same things that you're saying. I'm having more energy. My brain is sharper. I'm sleeping better. He goes, listen, these are things that I can say objectively are true.
Just happened.
And you're saying the exact same thing. So it'll be a fascinating thing, and it's very intriguing to hear because it's so opposite of what we're taught.
It is, and we're taught so much, and it's the story of have you ever heard the story of the young couple and the Christmas ham? Do you know this one?
No, but tell it to me.
So it's a young couple, and they're newly married, right? And it's Christmas, and the wife is so excited to make the Christmas ham. And so she makes this Christmas ham, and it comes out and it has the bottom cut off of it. And the husband's like, "Why did you cut the bottom off of your ham?" She's like, "I don't know. My mom always did it." And so she calls her mom, and she says, "Well, why did you always cut the bottom off of your ham?" And she says, "Well, because my pan wasn't large enough, And so that's the thing, is so many times we just we eat broccoli because we're told we should eat broccoli. We eat this because we're, and man, we are force-fed. Actually, you know what? It's not even force-fed. It's very delicate and lovely the way it's done. It's very graceful in the way we are told what we are supposed to do and not do, and enjoy and not enjoy. And that's how we get stuck. It's because it is so graceful. And so my willingness is just to say, I'm a bigger guy right now. I need to lose some weight. Nothing else is working. Let me give this a go and see what happens. It's kind of doing some good things. Like I said, I want to continue to see it out and see where we go from here. But I'm excited.
That's a really cool story, because as autonomous beings that are trying to use critical thinking skills, it's like, wait, let's find out why. Well, she just had a short pan. Well, what if you have a normal size pan? Why are you wasting? But if you never figured out why do I do what I do, you're simply just doing it because that's the way you've seen it done. That doesn't necessarily mean it's right.
No, doesn't mean it's wrong either.
100%. Again, it's just the ability to be able, and you know what? Experiment a little bit. Yeah. Find out what works for you. Yeah. Speak to a large variety of experts, because generally there's not always consensus. Yeah. Some people are going to say, absolutely, Lance, you should try that. And other people, like I told you before, my fiance is literally reading a book called How Not to Die. Right. And it's and there's broccoli on the cover, and it basically says, if you eat meat, you're going to have all these illnesses. Yeah. So there's such a wide variety of information out there.
And a wide variety of people. Like, we are all so very different.
Your needs might be completely 100%. Different than mine, which could be completely different than hers, which could be completely different to someone else with a different genetic, requirements out of their body, etc. So, man, I'm fascinated to follow that, though. Keep me in the loop about how that goes. And if you think it's going really well, I'm gonna do it for maybe a month.
You're going to get me in trouble with your fiance is what's going to happen.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, our differences is one of the things that we value most about each other. And that's that's a part of my relationship that I love now, is my fiance and I are the most opposite human beings on the planet.
Isn't it great?
Like I am energetic, love people, love life, love stories. She likes 3 people as her group of friends. She loves being a homebody.
And a cup of tea.
100%. We are the polar. She thinks a lot with emotion. She doesn't. I don't even know if she necessarily believes in objective truth. She's just kind of like, well, there's everybody has their version. I'm like, no. There's the truth, and then there's closer versions. So, but I love that fact about us. You know what I mean? And I love the fact that we can be different in that way. So Lance, it was truly an honor to sit with you today.
Well, thank you.
I
Thanks for having
absolutely
me.
cannot wait for Saturday.
Yes.
And I hope you guys are back in Michigan multiple times a year. And I can't wait to see how the diet and the rest of the story turns out.
Hell yeah.
So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.